I'm okay. I'm not injured. It's not a real accident. These men carrying me work for the Mines Rescue Service. They're pretending there's been an accident. They're practicing, so they know what to do when they really have to rescue somebody from an accident underground down a mine. In this country, accidents in mines don't happen very often nowadays, but they used to. And the story we're going to see today starts with an accident down a coal mine, a terrible mining disaster that happened nearly 200 years ago, long before there was a Mines Rescue Service. It's the story about the invention of this, the miner's safety lamp. Hey, now I'd just better hang on a minute, hadn't I? Because I keep talking about miners and coal mines. But I wonder, do you know what it's like down a coal mine? I'll show you. When the miners start work, they collect the lamps, which run off special batteries. Then they're taken underground in a cage, a sort of lift that goes down a big hole or shaft. There's no daylight, but there are electric lights to help them. Deep underground, there are layers of hard black coal. Huge machines dig out the coal. Then it's carried away and taken up to the surface. That's what it's like down a modern coal mine. But our story starts in 1812, and coal mining was very different then. Remember, this was long before there were electric lights. The only light down the mines was the very dim light from oil lamps or candles. All the work was done by people, not just men mined. Women and children worked in the mines as well. The men dug the coal with a pick. That was all they had. And women and children loaded it into baskets and pushed and pulled these heavy loads to the shaft to be hauled up to the top. If you had lived in those days, you might have worked down a coal mine. Some children started work when they were only 6 or 7 years old, usually boys, but sometimes girls as well. The children worked all day, sitting in the dark, opening and closing wooden doors to keep the air moving around the mine. They were called trappers.
I have to trap without a light, and I'm scared. I never go to sleep. Sometimes I sing when I've got a light, but not in the dark. I dare not sing then.
They were very dangerous places, coal mines. There was gas down there, a very explosive gas called fire damp. It seeped out of the rocks and from between the layers of coal. There's gas in this little stove. I'm going to use it to make myself a cup of tea. But watch what happens when I turn on the gas and put a lighted match to it. See? It catches fire. And that's what happened down the mines to the fire damp gas. Now, this flame comes from just a tiny amount of gas. But down a mine, there could be a huge buildup of fire damp. When it mixed with air and came in contact with a candle flame, it could catch fire and cause a tremendous explosion. In 1812, fire damp did cause a terrible explosion in a mine at Felling, near Newcastle upon Tyne. In a church near Newcastle, the Reverend John Hodgson preached a sermon at the funerals of the people who'd been killed.
The magnitude of this disaster is a shock to us all. We must do everything in our power to prevent such a disaster ever happening again.
128 men and boys had gone to work down the mine. Only 36 came back. 92 of them were killed.
Gentlemen,
The Reverend Hodgson organised a society for the prevention of accidents in mines.
have you any suggestions of how we may prevent these accidents?
They knew about mines, but they needed help from somebody who knew about gases. They needed a scientist.
May I suggest that we write to the Royal Institution and ask them if they could send us someone who could help us with our problem?
So they asked Sir Humphrey Davy to help them. He was the country's leading scientist. He worked at the Royal Institution in London, where many famous scientists made major discoveries. When the Reverend Hodgson's friends got in touch with Sir Humphrey, he was on a fishing holiday in Scotland. Now, if this was a magic lamp, you know, like the one Aladdin had, I could just, what do you reckon? Worth a try. It's him. It's Sir Humphrey Davy. When I received the letter about the horrible tragedy in the mine at Felling, I was deeply shocked. I called to see the Reverend Hodgson and his friends on my way home from Scotland. As I heard how the miners and their families had suffered, I knew I had to help them solve the problem of explosions. I shall go directly to London, to the Royal Institution. I shall work night and day to try and find a solution to this problem. I did all my work here in my science laboratory in London, a long way away from the coal mines, but I had all my scientific equipment here. These wine bottles, a very important part of my work. I asked the people in the mines to collect fire damp gas in the bottles and send it to me so I could use it in my experiments. I already knew that a mixture of air and fire damp would explode if it got near a candle flame. The answer was simple then. Cover the flame and keep it away from the gas. But as you can see, if you keep a flame completely covered, it goes out. To keep it burning, you have to let air get to it. This was a problem. If you were down a mine and you let air into a lamp, you'd let fire damp in as well, and that could cause an explosion. My aim was to invent a lamp that would give enough light for the miners to be able to see and would stay lit without causing an explosion. I needed to do it as soon as possible, before even more miners lost their lives, so I worked non-stop. I built several lamps, but I still wasn't satisfied. Then I had an idea. An oil lamp with the flame surrounded by wire gauze, thin metal with lots of tiny holes. I tried it. It worked safely here in the laboratory without exploding the fire damp from the bottles. But would it work down a mine? I sent it away to be tried out. Mr. John Buddle, the manager of a coal mine, tested the lamp in the most dangerous part of his mine, where he knew there was fire damp. I could hardly wait to hear what happened. He wrote and told me that the lamp shone brightly enough for the miners to see their work and burned without causing an explosion. I'll read you what he wrote. Instead of creeping inch by inch with candles, we walk firmly on with the safe lamp. Mr. Buddle called fire damp a monster. After trying out my lamp, he wrote, "At last, we have tamed the monster." My safety lamp had worked. Well, I don't know about you, but I reckon he deserved a rest after that. It took him just 6 weeks from getting the letter to inventing the lamp. And you know, These modern lamps are all based on the original Davy lamp, and they're still used in coal mines, not for lighting, we have electric lights for that, but for checking that there's no fire damp. Sir Humphrey Davy's invention meant that miners could dig coal more safely than they had before. But why did it matter? What did we need coal for? You see, around the time when Sir Humphrey Davy lived, more and more machines were being invented. They've got a lot of those machines in this working museum. Machines like this one. It's an early steam engine. It has a coal fire to boil the water to make the steam. The steam drives the engine. The engine raises and lowers the trolley full of coal up and down the pit. For over 100 years after Sir Humphrey's invention, we needed more and more coal to produce the steam to drive all sorts of machines. I'm just back home in time to keep the fire in. Do you know, they used to call it king coal because it was so important to us. Why am I so interested in all this? Well, my dad was a miner, and my granddad. And when my granddad was your age, there were lots of coal mines in this country. But now, there's only a few left. This is my granddad's lamp. He gave it to me dad, and my dad passed it on to me. And I keep it here because I'm proud of it. Sir Humphrey Davy was proud of his invention too. He'd done what he'd always wanted to do. He'd used science to help people.